I'm Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times. Tuesday, September 29th. News from Arkansas and around the world. Governor Asa Hutchinson's in Havana today. He had a news conference with Cubans at the Hotel Nacional this morning. Prompted me to do a little Godfather joking photo reference to the event. He talked about the possibilities for trade between Arkansas and Cuba. It's not going to happen immediately, but he hopes we're going to be in first. He thinks we'll be in a top tier of states. He noted, for example, he'd been in a supermarket whose poultry department had one chicken in it. Tyson Foods can probably do better than that. There were several other chicken industry people on this trip, also Riceland Foods, which would like to export rice, also a candle maker from Fayetteville and a biotechnical company. Hutchinson is, unlike some people in his party, he thinks it's time to try something different in Cuba after 55 years of embargo. I think he's probably right. He's joined by some Republicans in Arkansas, not others, but I think in time the move should pay benefits for Arkansas. How soon, we don't know. Planned Parenthood is making big news today. Its President Cecile Richards is testifying before Congress. She got a pretty unpleasant handling by the leading Republican who's raising this issue. They wanted to talk a lot about Planned Parenthood expenses, talk about their revenues from abortion. Cecile Richards defended the organization, said that outrageously untrue things were said about them by the undercover videos that was done on their limited fetal tissue donations, medical research, which she defended in the course of her testimony. A new Pew Research poll today shows that 60% of the American people want funding for Planned Parenthood continued because it does provide basic health services. Mike Huckabee tries to say the organization does not, but of course he's wrong about that. Sarah Cliff has written a good piece for Vox about exactly what Planned Parenthood does and about the myth that its services could be replaced by other community health centers if the money was taken away from Planned Parenthood. In fact, there are not services readily available the type of patients Planned Parenthood serves. It's a good article. I recommend you take a look at it. Arkansas Education Department reported today small rises on the SAT test and advanced placement test by Arkansas students. We still only have about a third of our test takers on the AP test who score high enough to qualify for college credit with their score, but we encourage people to take the AP test and to take AP courses in Arkansas by paying for the test. A lot of kids aren't achieving necessarily college level work, but they're doing advanced level work, and that's a good thing. Particularly noted were some improvements on test scores among Latino and black students, which is encouraging for all. News from the Little Rock Airport today. There's going to be a new airline service is coming to Little Rock. It's called Glow Airlines, a startup by a young New Orleans lawyer. It's going to provide nonstop flights to and from New Orleans from Memphis, Shreveport, and Little Rock. 2 flights a day, Monday through Friday from Little Rock. That sure beats driving there if the service is successful. President Obama gave a great speech last night that's still relevant in Arkansas and around the country. He said, and what was a veiled reference to the Kim Davis Kentucky clerk case, that religious freedom is something to be respected and defended in Arkansas, but not to the extent that it infringes on other people's constitutional rights. In Arkansas, at the Republican legislature particularly, they want to pass bills that enshrine the ability of certain religions to impose their beliefs on others. That isn't the constitutional concept of freedom of religion, certainly. I wanted to comment, Benji might have mentioned it yesterday, but I came home to the news that the Justice Department is going to include Little Rock in a project to fight violent crime. Does it make you feel better to know that we're in a company with Compton, Flint, and Newark, New Jersey? I'm not sure that's exactly where I stand. Other news over the weekend that I didn't get to last week is got an invitation to a fundraising party this week for Shawn Wallach, who's a candidate for state Supreme Court, being thrown by the Arkansas State Chamber of Commerce and Associated Industries of Arkansas. If you have any ideas where Shawn Wallach is likely to stand on tort reform, that should answer it for you. Of course, he carried their legislation for years as a Republican senator from Arkansas. So far, he's unopposed. We can hope maybe a different viewpoint might emerge in that race. And finally, I mentioned Mike Huckabee before. His campaign grows increasingly desperate as his poll numbers drop. But I wanted to mention particularly something he said late last week while speaking to so-called values voters at the Family Research Council's annual convention. He said he's been fighting the Clintons all his life. He took credit through a hotline that he established when he was governor for some indictments that led to the downfall of a cluster of Democratic state legislators, buddies of Clinton, he called them. Well, there's no other way to put this than to say this is simply a lie. The Arkansas Times broke the story about the crooked ad litem program cooked up by some Democratic legislators. Supreme Court Justice Tom Glaze raised the alarm with Democratic prosecuting attorney Larry Jegley. Larry Jegley brought in U.S. Attorney Paula Casey, who happened to be a Bill Clinton appointee. They did the work. There was not, and Larry Jegley testifies to this, there has not been a single criminal charge that ever arose out of Mike Huckabee's hotline. In fact, he fought in court to prevent releasing any records of that hotline, I suspect because it showed just how worthless it was. But there you go again, Mike Huckabee not telling the truth, that maybe that's why he's at 3% in the national polls currently. I'm Max Brantley. I'll be back tomorrow.